Buongiorno a tutti, sono le 10:30.
Hello, it's 10:30 a.m. So, according to Article 11.2 of the bylaws, as the chairman of the board of directors, I'm going to take the chair of today's general meeting, and I'd like to open this meeting. If you agree, I'd like to appoint Notary Carlo Marchetti as the secretary of this meeting. Please, Notary Public. Yes, I'd like to remind you that today a radio voter electronic voting system has been adopted in order to simplify the counting of the votes. So should there be any problems with the radio voter voting, the voting sessions will take place by a show of hand. There is a slide which is now being projected about the instructions for use of the radio voter. So you will be asked to vote by using the radio voter devices that were given to you upon entering the room. During the voting sessions, except for item 4.2 concerning the appointment of the Board of Directors and 5.1 for the Board of Statutory Auditors, you will be asked to express your vote by pushing one of the buttons on the radio voters. And your vote will remain on the display until the end of the voting session. As for the slate vote for the renewal of the Board of Directors, point 4.2, shareholders are invited to vote pressing 1 if they want to vote the CDP slate, number 1, or button number 2 if they want to vote for the slate submitted by institutional investors, which is number 2. As for the Board of Statutory Auditors, item 5.1, shareholders are invited to express their vote, button number 1 for the CDP Reti slate, and number 2 for the institutional investors slate. In these voting sessions, the green button in favor shall not be used. The red button against or the yellow button abstained can be pushed to express one's vote against or to abstain from voting. Please press OK after your vote. The voting can be expressed within 1 minute after the starting of the session. Those who are not going to express any voting preference will be considered as non-voting. Please note that the notice convening this meeting was published in the website of the company on the 22nd of February 2019 and on the 23rd of February in Il Sole 24 Ore and Financial Times. Agenda, financial statements as of the 31st of December 2018. Number 2, allocation of profits. Number 3, remuneration policy. Number 4, appointment of the Board of Directors, term of office, components, chairman and remuneration. Item number 5, appointment of the Board of Statutory Auditors, appointment of the members, appointment of the chair, and remuneration. The directors are attending the general meeting. Petrone, Bedin, Yumpeng. No other directors are present. And then the statutory auditors, Balducci, Genta, and Zanetti. So the Board of Statutory Auditors is unanimously present. Justified absentees, the absent directors, the share capital 1,231,518, 809 million. So attending today, 78.25% of the share capital. According to Article 13 bis of the EU Regulations 679 of 2017 on personal data protection, I'd like to inform you that personal data will be processed by Italgas as the owner of the data processes within the framework of the requirements, of the legal requirements. the list of the names of the people attending today's meeting with the relevant number of shares is available to you and will be complemented with the names of the people joining the general meeting afterwards. After each voting session, the number of participants voting will be communicated, as well as the outcome of each individual voting session. So please note that we have an office, a secretariat office for transcribing the proceedings of the general meeting. There is a sound and video recording system in the room, simply to simplify the minute taking. And, recording will be published, postponed by 5 minutes on the website of the company. Please note that no other recording devices or cameras or similar devices are not allowed in the room. There is a simultaneous translation from Italian into English. According to Article number 7, requests for taking the floor can be submitted to the Secretariat office throughout the proceedings until the starting of the discussion. According to GM rules and regulations, each individual contribution can be 5 minutes long, and will have to concern the items on the agenda. So those, the eligible shareholders are kindly asked to stick to the time provided. No replies are admitted at the end of the discussion. Short voting statements are allowed. According to the chair and as provided by the chair, these statements can be maximum 2 minutes long. Should there be any changes to the proposal formulated by the Board of Directors, first of all, the board proposal will be submitted to vote, and should it be rejected, any further proposals will be put to the vote. The same applies to any further instructions. Should the chairman decide to vote on them, first of all, the proposals submitted by the chairman will be put to the vote, and if rejected, any further proposals will be put to the vote. And the same applies to any proposals formulated by the people attending this meeting. I'd like to inform you that all the necessary activities provided by statutory regulations and have been carried out. Very good. So I now declare today's general meeting as properly convened and eligible to resolve on the items in the agenda. I'd like to inform you that no further requests for addition have been submitted. And please note that according to any circumstances known to the company, we've checked the legitimation to vote of all the people attending this meeting. Please inform the meeting if you are not entitled to vote, or if you are excluded from voting, or if there are any shareholders' agreement in place. So if there are no further remarks, I'd like Notary Public to provide further information about the GM proceedings. According to the results of the shareholders' book as of the 3rd of April 2019, shareholders having directly or indirectly shares accounting for more than 3% are CDP, so 26.05%, Snam 13.50%, Lazard Asset Management accounting for 8.71% of the share capital, Romano Minozzi in total 4.29%, through Granite Fiandre SPA, Finanziaria Ceramica Castellarano SPA, Iris Ceramica Group SPA, and a direct share, and BlackRock 4.16. The company is aware of the shareholders' agreement signed on the 20th of October 2016 between Sidireti SPA and Snam SPA concerning all the actions all the shares that they would acquire in Italgas SPA after the proportional and partial spin-off of Snam in favor of Italgas and the authorization to go public. The shareholders' agreement that came into force on the 7th of November 2017 regulate, among others, the exercise of voting rights related to syndicated shares, the setup of a consulting committee, third, obligations and ways to submit a joint slate for the appointment of the members of the board, and any restrictions to the sales and purchase of Italgas share. Then, concerning the questions asked during the meeting, we will proceed as follows. Answers will be provided as soon as all the items on the agenda are dealt with, and possibly after a short break at the end of the answers. The proposals on the items on the agenda will be put to the vote. I'd like to inform you that some questions were asked and received by the company. Questions and answers given by the company were published on the website of the company. Please note that the company appointed Georgeson SRL, present today through Alberto da Roma, as the representatives to which eligible shareholders can give proxies with voting instructions. No proxies were given to the representative. Let me open the proceedings, but prior to dealing with the items on the agenda, I'd like to inform you that the reports by the board, including draft resolutions, were filed with the company and on e-market storage at the website www.marketstorage.com and published on the website of the company. Upon entering this room, you also received a folder including the aforementioned reports, the financial report 2019, the remuneration report 2019, the corporate governance and ownership structure report 2018, and the non-financial disclosure 2018. As far as the appointment of corporate offices is concerned, please note that the board guidance to shareholders about the future size and composition of the new board of directors and the relevant slates with the relevant documents and the bylaws are available at the company's headquarters on the storage mechanism e-market storage, emarketstorage.com, and published on the website of the company. Upon entering the GM room, you also received a folder containing the copy of the guidelines and of the slates of candidates. As far as the type of items on the agenda are concerned, I'd like to propose to consider items 1 and 2 on the agenda jointly. The voting sessions will be separate for item 1 and item 2. Let me now move to the items 1 and 2 on the agenda of today's GM. So, financial statements as of the 31st December 2018 of Italgas SPA, consolidated financial statements as of the 31st December 2018, reports by the directors, the Board of Statutory Auditors, and the auditing company, non-financial disclosures, relevant and consequent resolutions, allocation of profits, and distribution of dividends. I'm now asking Notary Public Marchetti if the attendees agree to provide some information about the activities performed concerning this item. So the folder including the financial statements as of the 31st December 2018, the consolidated financial statements, reports by the directors, the Board of Statutory Auditors and the auditing company, the non-financial disclosure, and any proposals by the board concerning the approval of the financial statements and the allocation of profits, they are all available at the company's headquarters and are available on e-market storage and were published on the the website of the company on the 11th of March 2019. Please note that the financial statements documents were given to you when entering the GM room and was sent to those requesting it. The auditing company PwC S.p.A. Worked 485 hours for a total amount of 34,500 euros to audit the financial statements and for regular audits, and 965 hours, 55,500 for auditing the consolidated financial statements. And I would like to read out I now should read the letters to the shareholders and the stakeholders. As you all have it before you, I am proposing to skip the reading out of the letter and to focus on more relevant items. But before moving forward, I'd like to thank warmly all the people involved, shareholders and all the staff resources who worked hard in allowing the company to go public. I'd like to thank all my colleagues of the Board of Directors, the Board of Statutory Auditors, the shareholders who supported us, and also the Regulation Authority, the Regulation Authority of the Italian electricity system is a very successful authority, and all this has contributed to the success of our company throughout the past years, and I'd like to take the chance of mentioning and thanking them all. And now let me hand over to the CEO for outlining the results. I prefer to stand up and to focus on the bigger screen while describing the results, the business results of 2018, but also the whole path that since November 2016, so since the carve-out from Snam, Italgas has gone through. And this is interesting because, as the chairman pointed out, we are now approaching the end of this 3-year period, or better still, 2.5 years. And it is very important for shareholders as well to draw a balance of what happened throughout these 3 years.
Okay, let me check again. Of course, we tested the system this morning and we managed to have it work. Okay, I need support of the sound and video technicians. Okay, this is point number 1. Please, let's have a look at the performance of our security. And by the way, you don't see the dividends that have been paid out. Now, those who really believed in us at the very beginning, so in the month of November 2016, well, they enjoyed an excellent performance, a performance which is now better than our peers' performance levels, and this level is also higher than the average of the European utilities. And again, this is even better than what the FTSE MIB did. Now, maybe some people purchased the security 2 weeks after, getting listed, where performances are even better. Of course, in this graph, I had to take, let's say, the starting point, which is November the 16th, 9 a.m. So, if you will, in just, this simple diagram, you can see all what we have done for 2.5 years. So, from November the 7th all the way to today. So the figure representing the value of our shares yesterday, now this is our top value. This is now 5.55 euros per share. And once again, this is an unprecedented record-breaking figure. Now, let me try and, summarize the highlights. I mean, the key events that have been taking place in 2.5 years, in the past 2.5 years. We will also be focusing on some of the key figures of 2018. This is a journey. I like to use the English word journey because this is what we went through together in the past 2.5 years. So you know who we are. You know what we did. Let's say almost 70,000 kilometers of grid, 7.56 million metering devices. Market share is a little less than 35%. I mean, we now have more than 4,000 human resources working for us. Of course, well, some of them are in the subsidiary companies. I will make a list of these companies in a couple of minutes. Now, throughout our 2.5 years, we have done so many things. Now, this is the a sort of a snapshot of the well, conditions and situation of our corporation at the end of December 2018. I'll be back on this point. I mean, there have been so many acquisitions. And I mean, this structure, I know it's quite complex, but it has to be changed. I mean, starting, well, April, so this month, the corporate structure will go through a streamlining and a simplification system. We will be acquiring companies and organizations from, you know, other people or other organizations. So there's an onboarding period at the very beginning. Then, of course, it takes a little time, and then they will sort of merge into Italgas Reti. You can see here a couple of highlights. There's sort of a new company that we have acquired, decided to make energy efficiency, and then because we want to improve our manager, we have created another company. So there's a separate company for the water management business. So let me start from the investments side, because I think that, you know, investments have been one, again, of the, well, most important highlights in the past 2.5 years. I think that there's been an incredible, an impressive leap forward that we managed to do starting in 2016. Now, that was the last year, let's say, where the management was under Snam, and then there's a huge difference versus 2017 and 2018. A significant increase. So we have invested more than 1 billion euros over 2 years for the grid. I will be back on the investments. So basically on the grid, we have replaced, you know, the metering devices. And then in 2018, what you can see here is brand new investments, never done before, having to do with new acquisitions. I mean, these are the investments. I mean, money we paid because we wanted to get new companies, and we have acquired new organizations. You can see here the progression of the number of the so-called smart metering devices that we have installed. Now, this concerns Italgas only, because if you also consider subsidiaries, we reach an incredible number, 5 million smart metering devices. So in a few months, so in 1 year, I will be able to tell you that all the metering devices we have will be smart devices. This is one of our key targets. So we're doing much better than what the authority wants us to do. 85% of metering devices you know, have to be smart within 2020. So we will be reaching 100% at the beginning of 2020, so much earlier. That's also another key highlight when it comes to acquisitions. I'm sure you know that in the past years, well, we had so many expectations in terms of, you know, tenders. Now, nothing happens, you know, on this side of the business. I'm sure you know about this. You must have read this in newspapers. We're still waiting. So we sent an offer almost 2 years ago for the so-called Torino 2 project, and we are the only participant. So our offer is the only one, and that was 2 years ago. So the Commission went through the documentation, and then, of course, they had to, well, let's say, they had to allocate, the tender. So, of course, we've been the only ones. So notwithstanding this situation, we are still, you know, in a sit-and-wait situation. Now, in terms of, you know, tenders, we know, and you know, that the general situation is sort of, you know, stagnating, sort of frozen almost everywhere. Anyway, we reacted in a very effective way because it has taken less than 18 months, as you can see here, to carry out 9 such, well, transactions. 8 such, you know, well, transactions have been closed. There's another one, so there will be the 9th has been announced in November. The total is 335 million enterprise value, and then RAB is 315 million euros. Basically, we have paid back the RAB because, I mean, in terms of you know, a premium, we didn't pay much, 151,000 PDR that we have acquired. And so once again, we did what we promised. We've been able to stick to our promise. And we have you know, another year to go. So in 2019, we would like to get 60,000 extra PDRs. So let's say redelivery points. Basically, Central Italy, Southern Italy, and in the 2 main islands. As for Sardinia, which is one of the 2 islands, well, you know that this is the well, most important part of this acquisition business. Maybe not in terms of values. I think it's important in terms of future perspectives. First of all, We didn't have any business in Sardinia. Now we cover 1/3 of the Sardinian territory, and we deliver our products into every single main city in Sardinia. There's a recent acquisition we announced in December in the cities of Cagliari, Oristano, and Nuoro. This means we have a complete coverage of Sardinia. So we started, making investments in Sardinia. We're now working on 4 out of 10 projects. In this case, we are, let's say, up and running since the beginning of 2018. In 6 cases, the contracts have been signed recently. Just in 2019, we will have around 80 million euros investments only for the island of Sardinia. We're now managing, and we will be managing, because we will soon close the very last transaction, so we will have a total of 50,000 new redelivery points with a very high potential. And again, in Sardinia, we're now creating modern, new, grids. Now, first of all, we go digital, so we will have a 100% digital grid, and I will tell you more about digitization. We will have fiber optics, because, of course, local communities will take advantage of them. We will also use fiber optics, to dispatch data. So once again, Sardinia, will receive, gas. I know it's the last region in Italy receiving gas, but they can count on a very modern, maybe the most modern grids in Italy and possibly in Europe. As you can see here, this is really, really promising, the most promising place in terms of future perspectives. So more than 500 million euros will be invested in the next years or so in order to create and install, the grids that we can manage. And once again, this is the snapshot you've seen before.
A questo punto dell'altro grande tema che
Let me now talk about another key topic I'd like to go through today, the digital transformation. In 2018, we speeded up so far so much. We are the only company in Italy, we are the only company in Europe, maybe the only company in the world to be so advanced in our sector. So once again, delivering or dispatching gas. Now, first of all, when we say digitization of a grid, what do we mean exactly? Well, of course, this means installing smart metering devices. This is the basic foundation. So if you don't have smart metering devices, if you're not able to meter in real time and in a specific, precise, accurate way, of course, I'm talking about the quantity of gas used by customers, you cannot say that you have a digital network or grid. So this is not enough. So we want to meter, what comes in, what goes out from our grid in real time. We also want to know what happens in the grid. And this is why you can see the so-called progressive reduction groups. Now, these so-called groups or units will be totally digitized. Now, these units are basically reduction stations. Now, all of this is being, totally amortized or paid out. So we will replace them. So we have already worked on the new concept, the bright new design of the GRF, or the digital GRF. We have ordered it, and installations will start in the second half of 2019. So what is it for? Well, we will be able to gather, operating data, many different types of grids operating data, and we will also change the way we currently manage the grid. I have a couple of key examples for you to make sure you understand what I mean. Today we do maintenance, basically for 2 key reasons. There may be, once again, some breakages, so we have to, roll up our sleeves and do the maintenance. In other cases, you have an obsolete piping, for example. When they are more than 50 years old, we have to replace this. I know this is not the best way to manage a grid. So what will happen in the near future? So thanks to predictive maintenance technology, we will be able to repair the pipe before it breaks, or as another option, so no matter how old the grid is, we can do maintenance if we think that there are criticalities, and of course we will prevent critical points. So once again, no matter how old the system is, this means we will be better managing our investments. This means we will actually be able to improve the quality of our grid. What you see here is an example. So this is something that we have done already. 50 such projects done in 2018, right, not 2019. This year, 2019, we will have more than 500 digitized grids. On the left, you can see here the pre, and on the right, the post situation. Now, this means that in the grid, we will install plenty of sensors. Now, sensors will send data to a central unit. This means we will collect data, we will, process it, and we will use it for a better management. Now, 50 projects have already been carried out in 2018, and once again, more than 500 such projects, again, as I said before, will be carried out in 2019. This is an example of, let's say, digital application. This is what you can see here, right here. So this means, looking for leaks. And now this technology basically comes from Silicon Valley. We've been testing it for more than 1 year. Now we are, currently using it in a very widespread way. So once again, we look for possible leakages. The technology is totally innovative. It has nothing to do with the traditional one. Now, first of all, our, machine doesn't really have to, let's say, touch or, slide along the pipe just to sniff, if you will, possible, leakages. So in this case, this machine, this unit can have a higher speed, and the let's say sensitivity, and even the capacity, if you will, is 1,000 times bigger than the current one. And then during the testing period, we've been able to increase 100% the number of leakages we found. So we doubled actually this capacity. Now, what does this mean for us? You know that leaks. Well, this is something that authorities do measure. So if someone tells us about a leakage, well, we have to pay penalties. We have to pay sanctions. If we are able to sniff them, well, we don't have sanctions, but it's totally the opposite. We get a bonus for this. So in the 2018 financial statements, we have benefited greatly from the implementation of this technology. So today we have 10 different cars, 10 different systems. Let's say that this vehicle is also a training vehicle for our engineers. So they, crisscross Italy. We now have some of them in Turin, Rome, and Naples. And what they do is, they do this sort of inspection or sniffing. So we have high expectations. We will be able to detect the already existing leakages. But just, imagine when we, inject gas in a brand new network or grid, we want to make sure that, the system functions correctly. So we inject gas, and then we use this, detection system or sniffer that can really, sniff or see possible leakages. So once again, we can really, test the quality of the grid. Now, digitization is happening within our organization in terms of hardware or, let's say, infrastructure. We also have a soft infrastructure digitization system. We talked about this 1 year ago in this meeting. Now, one of our commitments was to, make a different separation, so a sort of IT system on the one side and traditional systems on the other. So in the traditional, let's say, SNAM system, we wanted to get out of that system. So we promised we would do this over 3 years. We've been able to do this in 6 months. So migration from April to November 2018, all of our applications have now been migrated onto a public, not private, a public cloud. Now, this has two, incredibly important benefits. Now, in terms of costs, we have shrunk them by 30% versus the previous situation. But, the most important thing is the opportunity to grow. Now, provided that you want to grow, or maybe you save on space. Once again, if you want to save on space, just by simple clicks. So this means that you don't have to, plan, the purchases of servers. You just have to get onto the cloud system. And once again, this is the cloud provider working for us. And you just increase space available. Now, this means a very high level of flexibility that we didn't have before. So once again, costs are going down, flexibility is going up. I told you we would do this, we did it, and we did it very, very quickly. More quickly than we foresaw. And just some days later, we commissioned our digital factory, which is one of the key highlights of our company today. Let me tell you what a DF is, a digital factory. Now, a DF is a real digital unit or factory. It is the driver of innovation in Italgas, also in physical terms. Now, here you have rooms. In these rooms, basically, we digitize our processes. Now, once again, these are physical, tangible rooms, and they work on very well-defined criteria with agile methodologies. Now, this means we can, squeeze time, and the objective is, coming up, having the first release of any digital application in 4 months. So we use innovative technologies, but first and foremost, all around these rooms, you can see basically all the players, required in order to put together and revise a corporate process. Now, for example, some years ago, when we, tried and, present or introduce a new application, this is what we used to do. Now, we had to draft a blueprint, so a sort of a project. So we had to discuss about the requirements of the application, and the system was sort of written together with the IT specialists. So after this draft, we had to wait for some months. So the blueprint was once again discussed with the system integrators. So we had to wait for some months, and then at last the system integrators implemented it. So at last, after 1 year, maybe 18 months, the system was available. But once again, we had to wait for 1.5 years. And, while waiting, the final system was not exactly what we wanted. Because, here the situation changes. All the players are around the same table, if you will, thanks to new technologies. Because, 10 years ago, you just couldn't do this. We decide what to do all together. So you cannot say, sorry, I didn't know. So 4 months only later, the first release of the application is being, let's say, worked on, produced, and released. There may be some revision. For example, maybe release number 1 has, some bugs, some problems. Well, you can really improve it. Now, this means that there's a seamless, updating process. And once again, we streamline and optimize the process once again every single day, so that the digital application is as effective as possible. This is what we have done. We have 2, and we are over. We're done because we started in November. So that was 4 months ago. End of March, we closed, if you will, the first 2 rooms. This is what they have done. The first one went through planning. Well, I have to say that we had a specific, planning system in order to program, to see what engineers had to do around the country. So usually at noon, we had to close the plan for the day, for the following day. Now, in practice, the plan couldn't be, implemented the way you wanted, because there may be emergencies, last-minute requirements, or maybe a maintenance or an action maybe be longer. You have to deal with traffic, in the large cities, to move from A to B. So there were many changes. So during the maintenance day, we had to sort of revise and adjust planning. And of course, we could do this just by making a phone call. So we had to call the engineers. So please, are you available? Can you go to point A? Can you go to point B? How long does it take? And so on and so forth. Now, the method has changed. We now have a real-time application. So thanks to a geolocalization, so we know where our engineers or teams are. This means that we can, replan or adjust the planning seamlessly, also in compliance with the traffic conditions. There will be so many advantages. As you can see here, we will be on time, we will improve the quality of the service, and this is the major highlight. Communication for end user that we don't have today. Quite often today we got, some phone calls or emails from our end user and saying, well, I'm still waiting for the engineer. The engineer is not here. He's late. Now, with the new system, some days earlier, we will tell the customer exactly when the engineer will ring the bell. And, if something changes, we will keep the user updated and informed. Once again, at the end of the maintenance intervention, you can see what happened. So there's a specific application available. This means that you can really see when the maintenance intervention is being concluded, when it's over, and the quality of the maintenance. Now, second point is an integrated control room. In the month of June, so in a couple of months, we will officially open, this center in Via Foggia in Turin, and then we will also move it to another technological park. Anyway, this is an evolution of our emergency center. It will be able to, collect all the data I mentioned so far that we get from digital grids, thanks to some specific algorithms that will be developed in our digital factory. We will be able to manage, let's say, proactively all the needs of our grids. Once again, this center has been completed. Of course, there will be other releases. Now, new releases means that, depending on the format and maybe with a different format, we will once again better manage the data from the grid. Now, this is a long journey. We couldn't, leave sustainability aside. As you can see here, sustainability was another key highlight for our managers in the past 2.5 years. In 2017, we wrote the first sustainability report. In 2018, we had the first non-financial disclosure. So we worked together with the Sustainability Committee. So all together, we put together a program or a plan. Now, this is much more than 1 year. It's a multi-year plan. This is based on 5 key pillars that we have identified already. We are now implementing, the pillars. We have implemented almost 42 actions, and basically 70% of these actions have been implemented. Sorry, there's one point I forgot. In the slide, on the right, you can see all of the indicators or indexes that we are complying with. These are the most important sustainability indicators or indexes on a global level. So this is what we have done. 5 key pillars, as you can see here. We have strengthened our sustainability positioning. So I have talked about the induction. We talked about this in our board of directors. And then we have new hires, 44% women. You can see here the average age of the new hires. Accident frequency rate. The level is very low, as you can see here, but we are not happy yet. So we keep investing on training because, safety comes first. Well, not just for our staff, but especially the safety of those who work for our suppliers. We also made investments, let's say, on local communities. There have been some sponsoring campaigns. We have replaced, personal computers. We have cleaned them up, if you will. We have updated them, and now we have so-called open systems required. And we have offered all of them free of charge for, we offered them to schools, especially in the earthquake-stricken areas. We had an earthquake in central Italy in 2016. We also have put together different workshops because what we want is improving the communication as to improve, communication with end users, and of course we have carbon footprint initiatives. Almost all of our cars are, natural gas fed, and within the end of of H1 2019, we will have 100%. You must have seen one here outside. 500L, but we have many different sizes. And then we talked already about smart metering. Let me go through the results of 2018, financial results, but especially, let's compare this with the results we had in 2016, once again, the last year with the SNAM management.
Impressionanti.
Results are really impressive. Revenues grew by 9% only. Well, it's a major pace, especially thanks to investments that allowed to increase the RAB of the company. And thanks to mergers and acquisitions, costs decreased significantly, minus 19%. The cost base decreased by 80 million euros. So apart from this 19% drop, I think 80 million euros is really a significant number. And thanks to that, the gross operating margin and the operating profit grew by 23 and 27% respectively compared to 2016. And then we also refinanced our full debt, as we already mentioned during the past GM. So in 2017-2019, we issued more than 9 billion euro bonds, and 1.1% is our current debt cost, and our net profit grew by 42.7% thanks to that. Despite all the investments made and despite the dividends paid out, we managed to significantly reduce the increase in debt that increased by only 5.4%. As we will see later, in reality, however, in our ratios, the ones that are measured by our rating agency, well, ratios have increased because together with debt, RAB also increased. So RAB net of acquisitions also grew. RAB, as you can see, moved from 5.7 to 6.2 billion euros, and the leverage, in other words, the ratio between debt and RAB, decreased from 61.4% in the past 2 years to less than 60%. In other words, this means that the greater indebtedness actually allowed us to further increase the RAB. With our cash flows, we managed to pay back all our investments, acquisitions, and dividends. As you can see, dividends have made a leap forward, or will make a leap forward in the following month, in May, provided, of course, that the General Meeting approve the distribution of dividends as proposed by us. Just a couple of words on the financial part of our company. As you can see, our company is extremely sound and healthy. That managed to buy its future thanks to fixed rate bonds. So 80% is fixed rate. We have no problems in terms of refinancing until 2022. 4.8 billion euros is our debt. And we have other committed lines or credit facilities for further 1.1 billion euros. Our indebtedness is basically made up of 3 components. We have bonds on the one hand, we have a debt towards the European Investment Bank, a fixed rate mostly, and then of course we have the issue of hot money management that is made on a very short-term basis. And this is the result. You see the all-in interest rate, 1.1%, which is one of the lowest ever, not only in our industry, but in general terms as well. And let's now come to our proposal that we would like to submit to this meeting, the distribution of a dividend equal to 234 euros per share, and this implies an increase by 12.5% versus the dividends paid out last year. And why this increase? Well, because last June, the Board of Directors approved a new dividend policy that provides for paying the highest level between the 4% growth, which is the floor, and 60% payout on the result achieved. So 60% of the 315 million euros that we recorded during 2018, so 60% of this is allocated to the dividend. So 809 million euros, and this results in 0.234 euros per share. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Paolo. Hey, I'm
Thank you very much. And now the floor goes to the chairman of the Board of Statutory Auditors and then to PwC for their reports. Well, the extensive report by the CEO has not highlighted an aspect which is extremely dear to me and that I saw here in the movie. Your company obtained and was one of the first in Italy to obtain the ISO 37001 certification for anti-corruption. We received, in other words, the certification and the confirmation that our system to check, control and manage the corruption within the Italgas system is correct. And this is a very significant aspect that we also mentioned in our report. Let me now read out the conclusions of our report, taking into account that the full report is available and is also relatively long. So I think it is useful that we just focus on the conclusions. In expressing a global positive judgment based on the result of the auditing activity performed, the Board of Statutory Auditors considers that the financial statements of Italgas S.p.A. 2018 deserves your approval, along with the proposal for the allocation of the net profit, 193,744,904, as formulated by the Board of Directors in the financial report. More specifically, 189,337,000 is a dividend equal to 0.234 per share for all the outstanding shares as of the coupon detachment date, and the carrying forward of the residual amount of 4,407,000. As from the general meeting required to approve the financial statements 2018, both the Board of Directors and the Board of Statutory Auditors will expire. I'd like to remind you that you will also have to resolve on the renewal of the corporate offices. In this respect, we provided you some. Well, we drafted some self-assessment forms and a summary note on the activities that we carried out during the 3-year period. In this respect, I would like to thank the chairman for the professionalism with which he chaired the Board of Directors, and also the CEO for the outstanding business results, General Director Pacioretty. And I also would like to particularly thank my colleagues in the Board of Statutory Auditors, Tenten and Zanetti, who have been extremely useful and precious and valuable colleagues. Henrio, our secretary, also needs to be thanked, as well as all the managers of the company who are really outstanding. Thank you very much. Mr. Grandi from PwC. Oh, I forgot Mr. Grandi, with whom we have been working a lot during this period. I am also reading the assessment included in our report issued on the 11th of March 2019. And well, as Balducci also mentioned, it would be too much if we read the full report. We performed the audit of the financial statements of Italgas S.p.A., encompassing the financial situation as of the 31st of December 2018, the income statement, the overall profit, and the changes in the net equity items, the financial report for the financial year closed as of that date, and the notes to the financial statements. In our opinion, the financial statements provide a truthful and correct representation of the financial and asset situation of the company as of the 31st of December 2018, as well as of the economic result and the cash flows for the financial year closed as of that date. in compliance with the international financial reporting standards adopted by the European Union, as well as all the rules and regulations issued in compliance with Article 9 of the Law Decree 38. Very good. And now, please, Notary Public. Yes, so financial statements. The draft resolution, having acknowledged the report by the Board of Directors, the Board of Statutory Auditors and the Auditing Company of the consolidated financial statements of 2018 and the non-financial disclosure, you shareholders are invited to approve the financial statements as of the 31st December 2018 of Italgas with a profit of 193,744,903. Draft resolution on the allocation of profits. Dear shareholders, the Board of Directors is proposing to allocate the profits as follows. To the shareholders as a dividend, 189,337,707.47 euros, equal to 0.234 euros per share for all the shares outstanding as of the coupon detachment date. Carried forward, the residual amount of 4,407,196,029 euros. Finally, the proposal provides for paying out the dividend starting from the 22nd of May 2019, and the coupons will be detached on the 20th of May 2019 and record date at the 21st of May 2019. Let me now move to item number 3 of the agenda. Remuneration policy in compliance with Article 123 ter of Legislative Decree 24 February 1998, number 58. As you know, the Remuneration Report 2019 approved by the Board of Directors during its meeting of the 22nd of February is now available at the corporate headquarters on the storage mechanism, e-market storage, as mentioned before, and published on the internet website of the company on the 11th of March 2019. This report was also handed out upon entering the room and was sent to those asking for it. I'm not going to read out the full remuneration report. I just would like to thank all the members of the Communication and Appointment Committee, Lolli, Danelli and others, for the work being done. And I'd like a Notary Public to read out the draft resolutions. Yes, so the draft resolution on the remuneration policy is very simple. You are kindly invited to approve with a non-binding resolution the section of the remuneration report of the in compliance with paragraph 3 of Article 123 ter of the TUF. Item number 4, appointment of the Board of Directors. So please note, as far as the item 4.1 is concerned, so term of office, the withdrawing Board of Directors proposed to determine the term of office of Board of Directors in 3 financial years, so expiring on the 31st of December 2021 during the GM meeting. As for 4.2, appointment of the members of the board, we have the following slates: CDP, Reti SPA and SNAM, accounting for 39.545% of Italgas share capital, submitted jointly a list of candidates. Some institutional investors, accounting for 1.36615% of Italgas share capital, submitted a joint list of candidates, list number 2. As for the item 4.3, appointment of the chairman of the Board of Directors, the board has proposed to appoint as the chair of the Board of Directors the first candidate elected drawn from the slate, obtaining the majority of votes. As for 4.4, determination of the remuneration of the board proposed to define the annual remuneration in 50,000 euros. So List number 1, CDP, Reti and Snam, have the following candidates: Alberto Dall'Acqua, Paolo Gallo, Yun Peng He, Paola Anna Maria Petrone, Maurizio Dainelli, Giandomenico Magliani, Veronica Vecchi, Patrizia Michela Giangulano, Niccolo Dubini. The list submitted by institutional investors proposed the following candidates: Andrea Mascetti, Silvia Steffini. Item number 5, appointment of the Board of Statutory Auditors. Please note that concerning item 5.1, appointment of the components, the following slates were submitted. Shareholder CDP Reti accounting for 26.045% of the Italgas share capital submitted a list of candidates. Slate number 1. A series of institutional investors jointly accounting for 1.36615% of the Italgas share capital submitted a joint list of candidates. Slate number 2. Concerning point 5.2, appointment of the chair of the Board of Statutory Auditors, well, the chair of the Board of Statutory Auditors will be the regular auditor in the minority list, obtaining the majority of votes. 5.3, remuneration of the chairman and of the regular auditors. The withdrawing board of directors proposed to define a year fee for the chair and for each individual regular auditor equal to 70,000 and 45,000 euros respectively. The slates are as follows: CDP, Maurizio Di Marco Tullio, Marilena Cederna, regular auditors; Stefano Fiorini, alternate auditors. Slate number 2, Pierluigi Pace, regular, and Giuseppina Manzo, alternate auditors. Let me now move to the discussion. Has anyone asked for taking the floor? Sorry, you have to put your name down and you have to ask the secretary, or by a show of hand. We have Rodinò, then Etica SGR, and Braghero, I think. And who else? Luizzi. So we have 4 requests for contributions, and so we can start. Yes, my name is Demetrio Rodinò. I'm a shareholder. The increase by 12% in the dividends payout compared to 2017, considering the outstanding results achieved, confirm the very good strategies adopted both business-wise and financially. And this confirms the cycle that started 2016 when the company went public after the demerger with Snam. Now we have the challenge of the plan until 2024, more than 4 billion euros invested for the Italian gas distribution system. It's an ambitious plan, and key is the digitization that focuses on excellent services, thus moving to 40% market share in Italy. My first question is as follows: what are the main levers, the main drivers that will allow you to take on the challenge of the business plan 2018-2024? A very important role in Italgas plan are acquisitions of new companies, on the one hand, to consolidate the group and its presence in new areas, and to allow to increase the coverage in the supply of natural gas. So what has been achieved and what is the forecast for 2019? Our CEO said that through the acquisitions performed throughout the year, the group further grew, especially in areas with a great potential for growth, and thus we expect to achieve significant results there. Through these acquisitions, we also acquired new distribution networks for about 215 million euros with new redelivery points, thus exceeding the target for 2018. As far as smart meters are concerned, what will be the advantages for the future? More specifically, 800 million euros were invested by the group in digital innovation initiatives so that all the players can have a stake and Italgas can become a leading company Europe-wide. But besides the smart meters, what other key aspects are to be taken into account? And let me thank the withdrawing board of directors for the excellent work and wish good luck to the new ones. And so I would like to express a wish, and I'm referring to the CEO. Considering the outstanding results achieved, I wish that we can all remain and that you can still remain so profitable in the future as well. Thank you very much for being concise. Braghero? No, Etica. First, Etica SGR. Hello, Marco Carlizzi, and I'm a member of the board of Etica and of Banca Popolare Etica, the parent company. I will speak about the first three items on the agenda, and we already sent questions last week, so I guess it will be easy for you to answer our questions. As for the first item on the agenda, Etica SGR, a company of the Banca Popolare Etica Group, has been taking part in the GM for the second year as a shareholder who pays attention not only to business and financial performance values, to environmental performance, but especially on the social and environmental performance. Etica is one of the founding members of Shareholders for Change, a group of committed shareholders focusing on sustainable development, which is key for bondholders and shareholders. Concerning the issues of sustainability, we would like, first of all, to congratulate with the members of the board and with the management as a whole, not only for the impressive results achieved, as we already heard, but also because on the 24th of December 2018, by the way, on a voluntary basis, they obtained the ISO 37001 certification, which is the certification on anti-corruption. And we also would like to congratulate with them for drafting sustainability and stakeholder engagement policy, and for being a member of the Global Compact and many other initiatives. Starting from the Sustainable Development Goals, we would like to ask you some questions, and we would like the company to preliminarily answer these questions now and to allow us to meet again for a more thorough discussion at the company's premises. First of all, sustainability governance. Point number 8 of the Sustainable Development Goals. As far as the Sustainability Plan 2018-2023 that was drafted by the company in 2017, we would like you to share with us the specific KPIs that were defined on a quantitative basis for measuring the 5 pillars of the plan with their respective deadlines. Concerning the climate change, point number 8, and concerning the issue of energy transition, our question is as follows. Do you know about the publication of the Grant Research Institute on Climate Change and Environment of the London School of Economics and of the Ulster Institute for Civil Society of the Harvard Kennedy School, drafted in partnership with PNI and ATOC, about the right transition that pays attention to the social impact, first on human resources, in order to achieve an economy with a lower environmental impact. And this is a study that was performed in 2018 by the London School of Economics and the Harvard Kennedy School. In this respect, we would like to meet you for a specific meeting on the just transition. During that meeting, we would like to discuss about 2 important elements connected with climate change. First, projects and investments foreseen for the retraining of the human resources during this transition phase in order to tackle the new businesses connected with climate change. And what about the projects and investments for any possible layoffs due to a company restructuring in order to adapt to new business areas linked to decarbonization? The last two questions, one is about climate change. Concerning the participation of Italgas in filling out the climate change questionnaire of CDP, we would like the company to briefly comment on the transition from A to B from 2017 to 2018 in the questionnaire. Last question regards the board and the governance of sustainability. Etica SGR wants, first of all, to congratulate with Italgas for their commitment within the framework of the induction program, both for directors and auditors, that also include relevant and material ESG aspects in compliance with the corporate governance code. In this respect, however, we would like to know whether in 2019 you are envisaging a continuation of the board induction program, including ESG issues for the members that will be appointed during this general meeting. And we also would like to ask you whether the guidelines regulated the board proceedings will be complemented with ESG issues that are relevant for the company and the group as a whole. Final question, the assessment or the self-assessment activity by the board, does it also foresee any ESG issues that are relevant for the company and the group? As far as these topics are concerned, we are certainly ready to collaborate with the company and to exchange views with the rest of the company. Then, as far as the second item on the agenda is concerned, we see payout by the parent company, which significantly exceeds 70%, which is the threshold value for the engagement policy of SGR. However, the debt development seems to be under control, also considering that the company operates in a regulated environment. Etica SGR will therefore vote in favor of this item on the agenda. In this respect, we would like the company to comment on the dividend development foreseen in the following years, considering the development of corporate debt. Last question about the remuneration policy, so item number 3 on the agenda. Etica SGR appreciates and evaluates the transparency of Italgas and would like to congratulate the Appointment and Remuneration Committee. We just would like to point out 2 aspects. First aspect concerning the long-term bonus program, and we reiterate what we said last year. We would like you to introduce a sustainability parameter that is also already foreseen for short-term incentives, but we would like to have it included for long-term incentives as well. And last question, as we already asked last year, could the company please communicate the GLI disclosure in piece of information for the annual remuneration concerning the highest remuneration versus the average remuneration of the company? And we are asking the company to publish this figure in the sustainability report of next year. We wish and we hope that our questions will be interpreted by you as prompt and as a driver for further improvement. Thank you. Bragherio. Hello. Well, it is extremely uncomfortable, Mr. Chairman, to speak without looking into my partner's eyes. Well, if I go there, I have at least a desk, but considering how the room is laid out, I cannot look at and I cannot see all the other shareholders. So...
No, per carità. Non sia mai, ognuno al suo posto, quindi...
Sorry, everyone has his or her own place. So, Mr. Chairman, all these technologies you have been focusing on should also have led to the choice of a better room. But besides that, well, first off, I have to say that I noticed a very significant gap between what Notary Public Carlo Marchetti said about the discussion and what is written in the GM rules and regulations that were handed out to us. In the GM rules and regulations, Article 7.2, reference is made to contributions not exceeding 15 minutes. But most of all, reference is made to discussions on every single item on the agenda. And in item number 7.4, answers are foreseen at the end of all contributions on every single item on the agenda. So why should we draft rules and regulations if we do not stick to them? I'm sorry if I interrupt you, as you are challenging the rules and regulations, so we should read the entire text. But if you go to the end of 7.2, you can read, well, the chairman of the meeting, upon opening the meeting, determines the maximum duration of every single contribution, which is usually equal to 15 minutes. I decided to reduce this time to 5 minutes. This lies within the framework of my authority. Nobody rejected that. And, well, it doesn't make any sense to start such a procedural discussion. Well, I'm not here to quarrel, and I'm not here to speak for hours. I've never done this, and those who know me know what I'm talking about. As I have always challenged the rules and regulations for GM proceedings, because I think they are useless, I'm simply confirming that they are totally useless. You have the power to reduce that time to 5 minutes, but there must be a reason for that. For example, if hundreds of people asked to take the floor. But anyway, so concerning the corporate results, I have nothing to say, of course. Well, you have rejuvenated me. Well, I feel much younger now because such outstanding results used to be achieved by Italgas in the very past when we were listed. Now we are public again. Well, what I still cannot understand is why back then the company was delisted. However, Mr. Chairman, when your predecessors, D'Amolo and Martini, said, we hope Italgas becomes Gas de France in Italy, well, referring to the size and the scope of its grid. Today, our CEO said we have 35% market share, and hopefully our positioning will further increase. What I haven't understood, however, and I'd like the proponents to describe the reasons for that. So what I cannot understand is why, vis-à-vis such bright results, the majority of board members have to withdraw. And, well, this is very strange, and I'd like to understand the reason why. Either they do not want to be reappointed for any reason whatsoever. Well, the remuneration is not that much, but it's not peanuts anyway. So I'd like to better understand the reason for not appointing the board members again. Well, even worse, if we look at the Board of Statutory Auditors, which is completely renewed. Well, when Balducci thanked all his colleagues, well, that's sweet. Well, he said we all worked hard and we all reached outstanding results, but we have to go. Could you please explain that dynamics? And then very last question, and I think I've stuck to the time allotted to me despite of the polemic. At the beginning of the meeting, Carlo Marchetti mentioned the directors attending this meeting, but I didn't quite catch the names. So could you please repeat the name of the directors attending this meeting? Because, well, if there are directors present today who will not be reappointed, well, this is really great.
Thank you so much. We will answer as quickly as possible. Mrs. Loizzi, maybe you want to... Okay, I can stay here. So I hope you can hear me anyway. Good morning, first of all. My name is Germano Loizzi. Okay, so 3 extraordinary years, now impressive, stunning results, and I'm simply using the words pronounced by Mr. Gallo. Now, these results, I guess, do justify the, let's say, enthusiasm that I can see and feel here this morning. And, of course, I really would like to thank the speaker for sharing this enthusiasm. Basically, he has already, let's say, indirectly answered some of my questions. Anyway, there are some points I'd like to go through in depth. And one such important point is represented by the DEF, the Digital Factory. So you said that, I mean, one part of the more than 500 million euros investments made in 2018 were allocated to create a digital factory. Once again, as you said in your presentation, starting November 2018, this is the key driver, creating a real transformation of the company. So this means that we will be more dynamic, we will be, let's say, complying with the environment, respecting the environment, helping local communities, thanks to your daily commitment and the value of human resources working in this company. Now, one part which is very interesting for me is the predictive maintenance part of your presentation. So you said that you already had, carried out more than 50 such projects in 2018, and many are foreseen for the current year. Can you give me some color on this point, I mean, on predictive maintenance? And, again, back to digitization. This is a personal curiosity. So what is the impact of, digitization on the quality of the work, I mean, carried out by your staff? And I know that you are speeding up. So how are human resources reacting to this sort of acceleration, so to a higher speed? Again, as you briefly said in your presentation, there's a very solid, strong sustainability culture in this company. So do you plan some events or initiatives in order to become more sustainable in terms of the corporate set of actions or approaches you implement daily? There's another point in terms of your relationships with companies and customers. I mean, you do not produce gas, you do not import the gas. So basically what you do is managing gas and then dispatching it to Italian households or companies. So once again, families or households and companies can choose which kind of supplier they want to have. So in the 2018-2024 plan, do you envisage new benefits for customers and for dispatching companies in terms of contents, but also in terms of how relationships can be improved? There's also another key point which I think is important for those sitting here today. I'm talking about dividends. So plus a 12.5% dividend in 2018 versus what you allocated or distributed in 2017. This is one of the points you highlighted at the beginning of your presentation. There's been an important development or evolution of our shares starting November 2016. So in those cases where we have beautiful performances, well, of course we have to highlight this. So back to dividends. So what do you foresee in the future, and what about the long-term dividend policy of the group? Thank you. Thank you so much. We have Mr. Lacca asking to be given the floor. Good morning. My name is Tacca. I am a very small shareholder. So because I am a very small shareholder, my speech will also be very small and short. Anyway, this is just to tell you that, I'd like to tell you that this result, the 3-year result is absolutely extraordinary, which is represented by the, the price of the shares. So this is basically confirming what you have done from 3.8 to 5.55. We have lost 0.5% today, but anyway. I am astonished by the debt, the cost of the debt, even if in percent terms, this level is sort of, short, considering, how large the, bond issues are. Now, this dividend, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like a password or a telephone area code, but it is an extraordinary dividend if you consider, what we went through in the past. Anyway, this is what utilities are doing. Do you think you can pay dividends twice a year, so every 6 months? This is my last point. Back on sustainability. Once again, I've been impressed by this sustainability data. But okay, downstairs it was impossible for me to have a notebook, some paper, and I had to write down some notes on this leaflet. But I've seen here 50 kilos, more or less, of paper. Maybe this is a little bit too much. So plenty of, let's say, hard copies and printed paper. This is what you companies usually do. So can we have, the financial statements and data on a USB key or an electronic device instead of printing paper? Thank you. Thank you so much for your future suggestions in terms of improving sustainability. Okay, I think there's another question. Okay, I will be speaking right from here. My name is Favalli. I'm a shareholder. Would like to congratulate you for the impressive financial statements, but I expected a more generous dividend, maybe 5, maybe 6%, which is what many utilities are doing today. So, well, considering, I mean, the price and the value of our shares, but anyway. Also have another question. Okay, so we are renewing the board of directors today, and well, I see Mr. Gallo, and you are one of the directors. And in terms of the new directors, shall we meet them here today or not? Are they here? Because it would be nice to see them. I mean, it's the it would be the first, mandate or term for them, so it would be great to see them and meet them. Thank you so much. Any more questions? So let me try and give you some answers. Okay, in terms of governance, I'll try and answer myself. Now, directors we have here today, we have Mr. Bedin. Now, Mr. Bedin was the chairman of the Sustainability Committee. Mr. Petrone was the chairman of the Risk Committee. And Jung-Min He, one of the members of the board of directors, so one of the directors. So I really would like to thank Mr. Benin because so he's been once again reconfirmed together with Mr. Petrone. I really would like to thank Mr. Bedin because, I mean, he worked greatly on the Sustainability Committee, and I know that you have all appreciated what he did. I don't have any other comments, maybe just some fine-tuning. I mean, now, the first board of directors, now, this is what we did when the company got listed. There was just one main, shareholder based on the bylaws. So the board was, let's say, under the aegis of a CDP, Cassa Depositi e Prestiti. Then we have two lists. On the one side, we have an ordinary, let's say, list, presentation, just like every other, ordinary listed company. Now, the first list has 7 directors. In the second list, you have 2 members. So if you do some maths, the majority of the previous board, at least as far as the first list is concerned, is re-proposed, reconfirmed. So I don't think there are, any, let's say, surprising factor or any reason why we should be further discussing about this. In terms of the business plan, so let's say the technical issues, let me give the floor to Mr. Cano. I'm just, following the list of questions, and I will try and go through all of them. Now, some questions, have been, let's say, asked twice. So, of course, I will answer once only. Now, I was asked which kind of, possibilities the company has to comply with the 2018-2024 plan. By the way, the plan will be updated. It will be officially presented June the 12th to the financial community. Well, let's say that the levers or the drivers we can count on, well, we have many. And, in 2017 and 2018, so in the past 2 years, they have shown that, well, definitely we are able to, let's say, handle these circumstances and manage them well. You talked about the huge amount of investments. 4 billion euros on the organic scope, plus 1.6 billion euros in terms of the local tenders. Now, of course, in the new plan, we will have more than 4 billion. Of course, we will have to wait for 1 year. So we will have, let's say, the 2019-2025 plan in this case. And we will be able to do investments. We are able to manage these investments. So 370 million euros in 2016, up to 520 million euros in the past 2 years. Well, let me share with you a preview. In 2019, investments will exceed 600 million euros, almost 650. So again, I do repeat what I said before. This is one of the key levers we have. The possibility we have in terms of, doing investments on our, let's say, scope of the business, so the concessions and the agreements we have. I think this is one of the possibilities we have to, combat the delays of the tenders, as I said before, and that this doesn't depend on us. So this is lever number one. Lever number two is the digital transformation. There are many other questions on this. I really believe this is a key lever. One of the rooms that we have, kick-started yesterday, we want to digitize the site management. Now, site management digitization means the following. On the one side, we will have the opportunity to check what our suppliers are doing. We will do this with less physical actual resources. We will be more efficient and more effective, and in much less time. Now, this is one of the many examples I may share with you this morning. Anyway, this will give us the opportunity to really leverage on investments. Second part of your question, the second lever is acquisitions. I went through the acquisition process in my presentation. Let's say that we have reacted in order to, once again, combat the delays of the local tenders with M&A activities. So small companies, small organizations have been involved into our M&A. These companies, some of them had financial problems, so they just wanted to dismiss the business. Other companies moved to another business, or maybe they fear, they would, they couldn't actually take part in tenders. So for many different reasons, we were able to get 190,000 PDR. So it's one of the possible, let's say, measures helping you understand how important acquisitions are. In 2017, 18, and 19, so this is a 3-year-long plan, we wanted to have 250 PDRs, 60,000 are still missing. We will do it because we have plenty of negotiations going on, so possibly we will hit the target in 2019. And again, probably in the new plan, considering once again the tender delays, I'm sure there will be other acquisitions. Now, let's say that there are no, let's say, low-hanging fruits, okay? And if they are there, they will be picked right away. So in this case, we have to climb all the way up to the tree to get other fruits. Anyway, I'm sure we will be, able to go through the tender, let's say, system, and we will be winning. In terms of the advantages of these smart metering systems, well, there are plenty of advantages for us, but not just for us. For our company, this means collecting information in terms of the quantity of gas out. And this means we can also collect information having to do with the so-called grid pressure level. Basically, when you dispatch gas, there's a specific, regulated pressure level. So if the pressure is too high, well, maybe the customer doesn't understand, but the customer is happy. Maybe, the distributor is not really very happy because basically we are offering too many calories, and then the opposite also happens. So today we do not measure the so-called pressure level. So with smart metering systems, we will definitely be able to do this. There will be other benefit and advantages that you can imagine. For example, end users, but also the selling companies. Commercial companies are now receiving on a regular basis, at least once a month, a list of actual consumption levels. So they will, invoice based on actual consumptions. And, this is what many users see in their bills. So there's a sort of an estimate done, so foreseen or estimated consumption. So we will forget this and we will go to an actual consumption system. This is much more correct, if you will, fairer in terms of, billing in the right way. And then, of course, the customer will pay exactly what they use. Now, this data is, available. We share this with, dispatching agents or companies, and I'm sure end users will also be able to read this data. They will see actual consumption, and, based on these readings, thanks to smart meters, they may try and improve or even reduce consumption and, of course, have a lighter bill. There's also another advantage. For example, if you want to move to another supplier or another vendor, this is a big issue because, of course, you have to have the so-called switch reading. So you do the switch and you have to read the meter or the metering device. So there's always a long discussion between, the two different vendors. And let's say the distributing company is right in the middle, just like a policeman, managing traffic. If you have a real-time reading, you won't have these problems. For example, the switch will take place at a specific date, and right at that date we will read the meter. And of course, there won't be any, let's say, negotiation between the, the incoming vendor and the outgoing one. Let me go back to the distribution system and distributors. And by the way, this was the third, maybe the fourth question on this topic, on the digitization of the grid. As I said before, digitizing the grid means, for example, having a real-time control of what happens in the grid. Now, we have 70,000 kilometers, and so we have 7.5 million smart meters. We also have the so-called city gates. These are, once again, digitized already, so we know how much gas is injected into the grid. Well, this is great, but this is not enough. So we want to replace the old sensors installed in the grid so that we can check the operation of the grid. For example, the volume, the temperature, and even the pressure of gas, and we can do this in many different regions. We will replace the so-called GRFs, the so-called reduction units. So basically, we reduce the pressure. We have 8,000 such stations along the 70,000 kilometers. Now, 6,000 have already been amortized. I mean, they, let's say, they've been in operation for more than, I guess, 20 or even 25 years. This is the regulatory amortization time. So we have to replace them, and we will. We have already designed, the new stations, which are now 100% digital. These stations are able to send, in real time, every single gas-related parameter: the pressure, the volume, the temperature. There will always and also be other, data. For example, the so-called odorizing content. The natural gas is odorless. In our city gates, we use the so-called odorizing chemical. I never remember the makeup. It's a sort of a TH. When you smell gas, okay, basically it's, I think the name is TH4. Because, of course, you know that this is, odorless. So what you smell is TH4. So the quantity of the odorizing agent is also regulated by an authority. So there's a minimum threshold you have to comply with. Now, if you're able to measure this or to meter this in the grid, we will use the right quantity. Usually we, let's say, use a little too much TH4, but for example, sometimes during the year, we receive gas from southern Italy, Basilicata, so sulfur levels are very high. In that case, that gas is not really odorless. So once again, we have data to better manage this kind of chemical compound. So this is a very simple, easy example. Anyway, we can do this provided that we have the right stations, and this means that we have all the data required thanks to these stations. Let me now reply Etika's questions. You've been very kind because we have already received questions, so we have prepared answers. So point number one, sustainability governance. We want, to keep talking to, with you on some, interesting points. For example, sustainability governance. So I do confirm that we want to, to talk about this with you whenever you want. In terms of climate change, once again, I do confirm we also want to talk with you about, climate change issues. I think we talk so much in general about sustainability, and climate change. I think Italgas has done more than talking. I mean, we have done something concretely, maybe not very many things, maybe this is not a very cool set of policies, but we did it. For example, we replaced cars, and now the fleet is no longer, let's say, gasoline-fed. We now have gas. And this has, a positive impact on the environment, especially because we basically work in large metropolitan areas. For example, in terms of, particulates or the small, of dust, PM, PM2, PM10, we've been able to slash this by up to 40%. So once again, there's much talking, but there's less doing. So we've been able to do this. I know that we have to replace 700, vehicles, and then we have totally, let's say, refurbished the fleet. There's also another benefit, which is a financial advantage. Now, for example, if you consider a specific mileage with, a gasoline-fed car, maybe the cost was 100 euros. If you move to diesel oil, the cost is 65. With natural gas, the cost is 30 euros. So once again, there's an advantage for the company. So not just a significant environmental benefit. So once again, people talk so much about, digitization and sustainability, but, there's talking, but there's also doing. So once again, we do talk about this, but we also did something, having a positive impact on the environment and on our financial flows. There's another question from A to B. Well, actually, we changed the index. So the system was utilities. Now we are in the oil and gas. This index is wider, deeper. So apparently you think we moved, one notch back. But the truth is that our positioning right away was much better than the average of the industry. So the industry average is C. Our geographical area is B-, while we have B. Of course, we will strive to go back to at least A-, no doubt on this. But it's just like, a football match, but if you work or if you participate in a different championship, the general scenario has changed, and now this scenario is a little bit more complicated. Question number 4, I think the chairman has already answered. In terms of board induction, well, rest assured, the system will continue, and then we also have one session due in a few days, so we are not wasting time, between, let's say, the new board and really initiating, if you will, the members. Once again, sustainability as an issue will be one of the beating hearts of this meeting. There's another question on payout, and you've mentioned, the word dividends many times. In terms of payout, we don't consider, the holding company. You can calculate it the way you want, but if you consider, the holding company, so Italgas, well, it doesn't make sense because this company offers, let's say, support, so we offer services to many other operating companies. So, if you will, we manage, centralized purchasing, then we do the administrative work. So once again, we deliver services. We do have to have this company because, of course, we have companies operating in different sectors. It would be impossible to have ESCO within Italgas Reti, so a separation is necessary. The water business is also a separate business because I think that that's an independent business. Well, why mixing up? And this is why we managed to improve in terms of, payables, but also in terms of cash flow. So Italgas S.p.A. is the listed company, I know, but it's also, if you will, the organization having no, let's say, physical, concrete, tangible business. So if you really want to measure something concrete, the dividend payout has to be calculated on the consolidated financial statements. Then, of course, depending on the dividends we decide, so of course we manage, the dividends of the subsidiaries because the so-called operating companies, have to have enough funds. So we try and have the right coupons, the right dividends. Sometimes we may have, 90% payout, okay, but it's, well, a very simple, mechanism that we have set up. So if you really want to talk about the payout and if you want to measure it on the consolidated results, well, we have 60%. And this is the consequence of the dividend policies approved by the board in June 2018. So in this case, you can have either a 4% increase of the dividend, this is a floor, so a minimum value, a sort of a guarantee for shareholders, or 60% of the payout. This is the consolidated, of course, consolidated profits that we generated. So once again, you will get, the higher of these two values. I hope I have answered, the questions on the, let's say, future dividends. Well, I think that this, calculation method really creates value for shareholders, and we are really confident. And by the way, this is based on great results we got in 2018. So once again, if you get consolidated profits and if you consider 60% of it, this will be much better than 4%. And this is why this year we grew by 12.5%. So this shows what I just told you. And I know that some people may not be happy. Well, some people complained about, the dividend that may have been higher than it was. I know, quite often, because I do meet investors and shareholders, I've got the same question. So why don't you increase the dividend? Because, many utilities pay 70, maybe 75% in terms of payout. Well, my answer is always the same. We want to strike the right balance between what we pay shareholders on the one side and our, capacity to grow, which means, preserving the value of this company. Unlike other utilities, we have the possibility to do huge investments. You must have seen this. This is shown also in the plan. So once again, we want to have this, possibility or opportunity for growth, because thanks to this, we will be able to create value for shareholders and again grow. So this is why we think that 60% is the right way. So this is quite a good return for shareholders. At the same time, we can really, keep enough financial flows to grow. In terms of the down payment, I know that the board may decide differently, but I think that if you pay an advance or a sort of a down payment, once again, we may decide, to pay the dividend just once a year, but okay, for the time being, we pay it in the month of May. So I have already answered other questions. In terms of financial benefits or incentives, if I'm not mistaken, this was question number 5 from Etica. Now, this plan was approved in the previous general meeting, and it applies from 2017 to 2019. So at the end of this 3-year plan, we will calculate new performance indicators. We will also consider, the total shareholder return, TSR. You want to know if we will create, other, sustainability-based parameters? Why not? This is what I said before. We can do and say so many things about sustainability, so let's try and do something, implement some of these points. Okay, this is the last question concerning me directly. This is what I was given. This is not my personal calculation. I couldn't have done it. So I was told that my fixed gross remuneration, if you make a comparison to the average of staff, is 19. I think someone mentioned the positioning in Italy and Europe. Of course, I'm talking about Italgas now. Italgas is the 3rd largest operator in Europe. Someone said Gaz de France. I would like to say GRDF, which is the distribution company belonging to Gaz de France. So they are bigger than us. And in France, they have the monopoly. So I don't think you can make a fair comparison. This is a competitive market. We have almost 35% market share. So they were offered, let's say, 100%, just like as a gift. So I don't think that France in the energy sector is not actually, let's say, the king. I mean, they are bigger than us because they have inherited this from the government. So I think that in 3 years, we will be able, to move up into the European, let's say, rating system. I hope that, tenders will be, let's say, well managed, and hopefully we will get those contracts. I think that we have already answered other questions on the governance, so the chairman did so. I'd like to go back for 1 second on Digital Factory. Now, you mentioned 500 million euros. Now, this is not on Digital Factory, okay? It would be a big headache. 500 million euros for Digital Factory. No, this is really too much. 500 million, this is innovation as a whole. So replacing smart meters, replacing GRF, the so-called pressure control stations, and most of this amount, from 95 to 98%, this is RAB, while the Digital Factory is a sort of a centralized hub. This is not remunerated. It is paid back thanks to the so-called PDR, the redelivery point system. There was another question on predictive maintenance, what it means. Well, in the manufacturing industry, this is something that's that's been there for many years. And manufacturing business usually is sort of focused in one manufacturing center, so this is easy to be done. Anyway, predictive maintenance means identifying specific factors or parameters that offer us the possibility to know how the grid is doing. And in this case, now by the way, I'm talking about the grid because of our business. But if you have another kind of company, you have to have the right parameters, understanding how machine tools are behaving. And this means you can do maintenance before, a breakage, which may sound like a catastrophe if you have an assembly line. So predictive maintenance was done many, many years ago, in this industry. For example, a gas turbine, if you have one impeller breaking, well, predictive maintenance is great. This means understanding what's about to happen, and of course, let's say you do prevention so that you can prevent, the machine from collapsing. So, of course, we don't have the same situation in our grid, and this is why predictive maintenance still has a long way to go in our industry. But I think it will be a major leap forward in terms of grid management, because it means that we will be able, for example, to sniff or to see the leakages thanks to analytics given to us from sensors. So if there's, for example, a pressure drop, which is sort of unique, a little bit weird. So this situations may have taken place also in the past. So we have data concerning the same problem, we have the same algorithms, so we can compare what happens today with what happened in the past. So thanks to this comparison, we know that something special is happening, and this is why we can do something right away. As I said before, today we replace, the cast iron pipings. Of course, we have to do this because we need to replace pipes and many other, let's say, fittings whose life cycle is over. Now, these pieces may last for many other years, but of course, if we had data coming from those systems, we may understand what to do in terms of replacement. People working on digitization, especially in the Digital Factory, understand that the operating system now is different. I talked about the rooms, and in those rooms, the people have to make decisions without, a hierarchical system. So you don't have to ask your boss what you can do and what you cannot do, but based on their knowledge, they can make decisions and they really understand what to do in terms of developing applications. This means you will, give, sort of empowerment to our staff. And, in terms of, the reactions or feedback seems to be very positive. The same happens in terms of grid digitization. So I have exactly the same situation. For example, when we, tested, the operation of the first digitized GRFs, so the digital stations, and I remember that visit in Venice. So the local engineers told me, at last, we have, data that can really, really help us work in total peace of mind and very efficiently. For example, the grid in Venice is made by, let's say, many different systems, because it's a special place, of course. So you have different sections in terms of pressure. And some people may, they don't know what the pressure of that section is. So they have to call, the central station, and, because, of course, some people cannot remember all of the different pressure levels in all the sections of the grid in Venice. So once again, they won't need to call anyone, so they will have a tablet showing them pressure levels of every section. So back to sustainability. The integration with our plan is sort of very deep and strong, and we have done many things. So the 42 actions that we have identified, we've also measured, how much we have done, and the average is 70%. So we thought about this, we have written them, and we are implementing them. In terms of, benefits for customers and other, let's say, vendors, okay, I have answered already. Now, Mr. Taka is inviting us to stop printing paper. I know this is not a beautiful sustainability example, so we will use, a USB keys, right? This means that you have to read, this data before coming here, because, of course, it's not as easy to go through this information in real time. But anyway, in the next meetings, I'm pretty sure we can, comply with your, let's say, idea. If there are some negative comments, of course, we will strike a balance and get a compromise. Let me check. I think I went through all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. As we said, no replies are foreseen, but there is the chance of expressing voting statements. If not, let me move to the voting procedures. Okay, so let's start with the board's proposal on the first item, approval of the financial statements. Please do not leave the room during the voting session, and please communicate according to law regulations now and for all the voting procedures the existence of any lacking legitimations. Well, as all shareholders are eligible to voting, we have 633,218,631 shares, equal to 78.25% of the shares. So item number 1, the voting is open.
Signor Magnani non ha votato.
Mr. Magnani has not voted yet.
Hanno votato a favore 630.
So 630,892,804 shares, so 93% of the shares are in favor. abstained 0.14%, non-voting 0.17%, as you will read in the minutes. Item number 2, allocation of profit and distribution of dividends. So the number of people present is unchanged, and now the second voting session is open.
Favorevoli 90.
In favor, 99.72%, so 631,500,000 shares. Against, 0.04% of the people present, 0.003 abstainees, 0.19% non-voters. Again, the proposal on the allocation of profits is approved. Item number 3 on the agenda, that is the remuneration policy according to Article 123 ter of TUF. The shareholders attending the meeting have not changed. The third voting session is now open.
Il risultato sono
in favor 620 million shares, so 97.97% of the shares. Shares against account for 1.79% of the shares present, abstainees 0.003, non-voters 0.19%. So item number 3 is approved. Now let's move to the voting sessions on the members of the Board of Directors. The first voting session is 4.1 about the term of office of the board members, 3 financial years.
Hanno votato a favore.
In favor 629 million shares, equal to 99.36% of the shares. Against 0.42%, abstainees 0.003, non-voters 0.17%. The proposal for the determination of the term of office is approved. Now, item 4.2, the appointment of the board by slate. In this case, shareholders are required to express their preference for one or the other list. Button number 1 for the slate submitted by CDP Reti and SNAM, or button number 2 should they prefer the slate submitted by institutional investors. So the button in favor is not to be used, but you can be against or abstain from voting. And after pressing the button 1 or 2, you have to press OK. And those who do not express their voting preference will be considered as non-voters. Slate number 1, 363,125,421 shares. Slate 2, 267 million against. For all the lists, 1,275,000, abstainees 7,000, and non-voters 1,333,000. So the appointment will be as follows. So Alberto Dell'Acqua, Paolo Gallo, Yumpeng E, Paola Anna Maria Petrone, Maurizio Dainelli, Giandomenico Magliano, and Veronica Vecchi are drawn from the list of CDP Reti, and then Andrea Mascetti and Silvia Steffini are drawn from the slate submitted by institutional investors. Item 4.3, the appointment of the chair of the board of directors. The proposal was to appoint Alberto Dell'Acqua. The voting session is open. In favor, 629,607,962, so 99.42%. Against 0.17%. Abstainees 0.003. Non-voters 0.36. The proposal is approved. Last item concerning the Board of Directors, determination of the remuneration, point 4.4. Again, the voting session is open.
Il risultato.
In favor, 631,482,134 shares and 99.72%. Against 0.004, abstainees 0.03, and non-voters 0.19%. The proposal is approved. Let's now move to the Board of Statutory Auditors. In this case, two shareholders are kindly invited to press either button 1 for the slate submitted by CDP Reti and button number 2 for the slate submitted by institutional investors. Again, you can also vote against or abstain from voting.
La lista 1.
Slate 1, 457,609,092, 166,139,910 the second slate, 1,078,000 against, and 11,000 abstainees, 8,379,000 abstainees, non-voters, I'm sorry. So Pierluigi Pace, Maurizio Di Marco Tullio, Marilena Cederna as regular auditors, Stefano Fiorini, Giuseppina Manzo as substitute auditors, and the chair of the Board of Statutory Auditors, as we had only one minority slate, which is not connected to the shareholder or shareholder submitted the majority slate. So for this reason, the Pierluigi Pace is appointed as the chairman of the Board of Statutory Auditors without requiring any specific voting procedure. Last resolution, the remuneration of the chairman of the Board of Statutory Auditors and of the auditors, according to the proposal described earlier.
Il voto favorevole.
In favor, 631,758,272, equal to 99.76%. Against 2,040, abstainees 0.03%, and non-voters 0.19%. So again, also the last proposal has been approved. Mr. Chairman, as there are no other items to resolve upon, I'm now closing today's general meeting. It's 12:44 p.m. Thank you very much and have a nice day.